Hey everyone, HappiDaze here, and in today's video we are getting into the 10th anniversary characters that were just released in a video a couple hours ago from Bandai. So I'm going to go into them in the order that I think personally they rank. Your opinions could be completely different, but I'm going to hopefully explain my rationale. One thing to note though is that we don't have their PvP stats yet, so this could drastically change the ranking, right, depending on how they are in PvP, and I have a feeling that they probably haven't posted that for a reason. I guess they're probably maybe still tweaking what those final skills would be. Maybe one was a little bit too overpowered, so they're trying to kind of figure out how they manage those, but hopefully we'll get those soon. So let's go dig into the actual units themselves. Before I do, just one quick note is they have this new action special where depending on your tap timing when you activate the special, you get different assorted bonuses that are there. So some of the captain abilities will mention this, so I just want to make sure we call it out before we get into the actual character details themselves, just so that you guys know that that's what they're talking about when they talk about the action special. We are getting 30 gems for the video that got released, which is always great. Good to see, free gems. And there's also a light campaign as well, so we can get, I think, up to 100 gems there too. So 130 free gems is nothing to scoff at. It's awesome, it's great, so can't really complain there. So let's get into the units themselves now, starting with my boy Luffy, my favorite character in One Piece, and I knew he'd be on this banner just because Luffy's always on the anniversary banners, but he's my favorite out of all the 4 that were released. So let's go into Luffy's abilities first, right? So with captain ability, he reduces the crew's switch effects and versus effects by 3 at the start of the quest. It's fantastic. A lot of times in Kazuna or TM, you can't get the super switches or versus charge before the end, so a lot of those units become useless in those game modes. So the fact that you have someone who can now reduce it by 3 at the start is absolutely amazing there. And on top of that, for Int Fighter Powerhouse characters, he'll end up removing the charge time by 2. So have 2, you can get 4. At the start of the quest, which is fantastic. I really can't complain about that. So far, his special is really good. He'll also boost Int Fighter Powerhouse character's attack by 6 times, and it will go up to 6.25 after 3 perfect strikes, so kind of reminiscent of one of the OG Luffy units there, where as you do more perfects, you can get more damage there. And it also boosts their HP by 1.35, which is just kind of whatever, but that's fine. And then if it's not an Int Fighter Powerhouse character, you basically get a 4.5 attack. So at least you still get something, even if you don't have that Int Fighter Powerhouse makeup on your team there. He does make crew's Int tandem slots have matching slot effects. Awesome. And reduces crew's despair duration by 10 turns. I love to see the despair duration removed. Obviously, bind and despair are 2 very heavily used mechanics in One Piece TreCru, so it'd be great to see if an especially can handle that other scenario there. And then if the crew uses special to boost attack, it extends the duration of that effect by 1 turn. So we'll have to see in a little bit how that plays out, but I have a feeling that kind of goes into what his special will do. And then if the character is a captain, friend helper captain does not count. So this is kind of a bummer. This is the one thing I don't like about these units, at least Shanks and Luffy, who have this specified in their captain ability, is that in essence it kind of punishes you, right? If you were able to have like a friend Captain Shanks and this Luffy, then they could both use the condition you'll see at the bottom there below to kind of help out. But because it's limited to only them being a captain, it kind of hurts the pulling more, right? Because you can't really use one to the full effect if they're a friend captain. So it's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. I guess it's just on streaming by Bandai, so it is what it is. So if you do hit an excellent on the action special, the captain ability of boosting Int Fighter Powerhouse characters by 6, then up to 6.25 after 3 perfects, end up going to 6.5. So it just gives you an extra 0.25 to that 6.25. Which is kind of crazy, right? We just recently kind of hit the 6 times meta. Now we're already up to the 6.5. He's going to do a lot of damage, a lot of Oonga Boonga damage there, so I'm glad to see that he is going to be a really heavy hitter when he gets up there. So let's go ahead and see what his special actually does. So if we open it up, 300 times the character's attack in non-type damage to all enemies, ignoring defense. So anytime you can do damage to all enemies, that's great. And it delays all enemies by 1 turn, ignoring immunity to delay or status effects. Again, that's great. Conditional delay, if you have like Vegapunk, for example, you could use his special to kind of boost delay enemies and things like that. So this might work out well with him. And then you can also reduce your bind duration by 10 turns. So once again, getting rid of despair and bind are fantastic. And always appreciated. There's always content that has bind and despair, so it's great that this one unit can take both of those conditions with the captain ability as well as the special. And then basically he'll do damage threshold by 10 turns. So we have a lot of units now that do damage threshold, so that's not kind of the end-all be-all that's there. But it's still nice to be able to have. He does change the crew slots, including the block slots to int, and you can't change the slots except to int or block. So I'm kind of curious here, if you use this in like a stage 2 and then go into a boss on stage 3, could they change your slots back into block? So it's kind of interesting, that block portion of it. So we'll have to see how that actually plays out, but I do like the fact that it kind of makes things unable to change, kind of locks to those 2 different slots, and then you can kind of work around those for 2 turns. So if you have an attack up when the special is launched, you get a base attack boost, 2,000 for 2 turns. That's great. And then it boosts the int fighter and powers character's attack up to 4 times based on the result of the action special for 2 turns. So this is where, we were talking back on the captain special here. If we just hop back really quick here, it can extend the duration of some of these buffs by an additional turn. So it'll be interesting that you'll be able to basically have an attack boost that goes an extra turn, which will just help you out, let you do more damage, and really let you kind of get the most damage output there. And then going back to the special, so if you do end up hitting a perfect, for example, you can change that 4 times boost by 1.5. So I believe that would bring up to a 6-time boost there. And that's a slot boost too that's there. So like I said, attack boost, slot boost, it's fantastic. He's just such a good unit. He has a lot of utility, he hits hard, and he's just going to be super fun to play with. So let's go ahead and just check out his EX Super first. So if any 3 characters on the team, and it's really the Straw Hat crew, also with some of the worst generation with Law, Kid, and Ace, Sabo, Shanks, and Roger, you can basically get a heal, which is okay. It just kind of is what it is. It's kind of interesting that it gives a heal. And then if you're Cerebral or Shooter as your first class, it will change it to Fighter. So this is interesting. Obviously, a lot of the new units that just came out with Vegapunk and the Satellites all were, Cerebral units. So it's interesting how, what I want to have to see if I actually get my hands on this character is that how this interacts with some of the requirements of them having Cerebral classes, right, to activate some specials. So I would think if you use this, because it changes that class to Fighter instead of Cerebral, they might lose some utility there, but we'll have to see how that all plays out once we actually get our hands on the unit. And then basically, and that's only for 1 turn, and then it boosts the type effects of normal attacks for Int, Fighter, and Powerhouse by 2.5 for 2 turns. And changes into Super Int and changes Fighter to Super Fighter. So that's kind of crazy. This guy has an attack boost. He can give you a regular attack boost, a base attack boost. He can give you slot effects, and he can also give you type effects. Like, that's insane, the amount of utility that this guy will have. Now, obviously, the condition of 3 is a little high, so that's kind of a disappointment. But there's so many good units that have come out recently, especially on the Straw Hats crew side, that it probably won't be too hard to build a team like this and still have good synergy. But it would have been better if it was like 2 units instead of 3. But you can't really complain with what he can do. It's pretty impressive. And then lastly, for his Rush Sugo, so kind of similar to what you had to do for the EX Super, you need 3 of the characters and the same characters I just mentioned. But what's interesting about his Rush Sugo, I should say, is that depending on whether you do the first tap or the last tap, the effect is a little bit different. So if you do it on the first tap, you get a little bit less on the chain multiplier and obviously a little bit less on the attack boost. If you do it as the last tap in the chain, then you end up getting basically up to 1.0 chain multiplier and 2.5 attack boost instead of 2. So you get a little bit more if you hit him as the last unit, as opposed to if you use him as the first. So I guess we'll have to play around with this and see how things work out in terms of, how you do super tandems and if you can do any double rushes, anything like that. We'll have to see if there's any kind of hack arounds we can do to get multiple things to work. But at least right now, it doesn't seem broken, I should say. It's a good Rush to go, but I don't think it's going to be, I don't think I'm going to be rushing to throw tablets into here. At least not right now, just because of the rarity of them and the effects not too different than some of the other units that are already out there that have Rush Sugos. So overall, that's probably the most disappointing part of his kit to me, but I think everything else on his kit was absolutely fantastic, and that's why he is my number one unit that I am going to say for this 10th anniversary celebration. So going into number 2, we got the news that the Shanks unit would be coming to the OPTC, and he would be part of kind of his Emperor form, even though it's really just him. He does have alternating art, so this is a stupid mechanic. I hated the alternate art. It started with the with the Luffy Yamato unit. The alternating pens are so hard to get, and they don't get them out often at all. Granted, they don't do anything different than the non-alternating art units, but you can use them in PvP on multiple teams. So it's kind of a bummer that I wish they gave people more ability to get alternate ink pens, because there's just not a lot to get them. So if you don't pull them in their alternate ink form or pull 2 copies, it's kind of a bummer there. So is what it is. I'm going to get off my soapbox and stop my rant there, but I just wish they would give a little bit more alternating art pens there. So let's get into his captain ability, see what he can do. So he sets his ship special charge time to max at the start of the quest. I mean, it's okay. I guess with all the new ship boosts that they're trying to do, it might have a little bit more value, but I'm not too impressed with the whole ship special to max at the beginning of the fight. And then boost attack by 6.25. That's fantastic. And then he will boost size, cerebral, and slash character attack by 6. Boost their HP by 1.35. So yeah, that's not bad. He gives us 6 times attack to the crew, 6.25 for himself. As long as there's a size, cerebral, and slash character, they get that 6 times. And a 1.35 HP boost, which just kind of is what it is. And then if they're not one of those units, size, cerebral, and slasher, then he'll give you a 4.5 attack boost. He changes the crew's int and dex slots to psi, and then makes psi tandem slots have matching slot effects, and then he gets rid of bind for 10 turns. So another captain who gets rid of bind. This time he gets rid of it in his captain ability, as opposed to Luffy, who got rid of it in his special ability. So I have a feeling that, for the Blitz battle, they want you to have a Shanks friend captain or captain, and then Luffy as the opposite one, just depending on what the gimmicks are. And then that will cover you for Bind and Despair for 10 turns. If you use a special to boost type effects, so Luffy had that as part of his kit there, it extends the duration by 1. Fantastic. And if the character is a captain, this is where I've talked about, if you're a friend captain, you don't get this boost, which is kind of a bummer. I think it's just a stupid decision. But that's just how Bandai is going with it. If you do an excellent on the action special, then basically you end up getting a 6.5 for size, cerebral, and slasher characters instead of 6.25 for the return. So just a little bit more of a boost than the 6.25. So you go 6.25 to 6.5. So I mean, the special, the captain ability is good. I wouldn't say it's as good as Luffy's, but it's interesting, right? He's just kind of buffing Luffy a little bit, giving a good amount of damage. I'm surprised that he only gets rid of bind, doesn't get rid of any other gimmick. So let's see if his special ability gets rid of anything else there. So going into his special. So again, 300 attack, non-type damage to all enemies. I like that. I love these kind of things. It helps with resilience, things like that. So I love to see this in specials. It will get rid of your rainbow shield, which is awesome, except for the damage reduction, which Luffy had there, by 10 turns, right? So tough to complain. 10 turns of rainbow shield's gone. It's fantastic. And then it reduces the duration of all enemy barriers by 3. This is insanely awesome. There's not many units that can remove barriers, and even less that can remove it more than 1 or 2 turns at the most. I think there's only maybe 5 or 6 that can actually do two turns plus. So the fact that he's able to do this is fantastic. I love this. It makes me scared for what we're going to see gimmick-wise in the upcoming events, but the fact that he can just remove it by 3 turns is fantastic. I love to see that. And then he changes his crew slots, including block. Fantastic. We'd love to see block slots change. That's always huge. To Sai. And he makes them beneficial as part of his captain, which is awesome. And if you have the type effect boost when the special is launched, you set the chain multiplier minimum of 3 up to 35. So that's respectable. Can't really complain too much there. And then after that, he boosts the size, cerebral, slash characters type effects of normal attacks up to 4 times based on, the action special. So yeah, just depending on how you tap on the action special. So the problem here is that like the type effect of normal attacks like just isn't that good compared to some of the other buffs that we have out there. So while it's okay in terms of like it's extra damage, right? But I'm not really this is why I kind of ranked him as number 2 on the list side, because I wasn't really quite as impressed with that as I was with Luffy with all the things he could do. So yeah, he'll give you that type of effects for normal attacks, which is good. But yeah, so his special is just okay. Like I said, I think he's still good. Don't get me wrong. He's not bad by any stretch of the imagination that's there. But I think what we want to just make sure, when we're doing any of this is just kind of looking at a whole, what the unit's doing, right? And as a whole, I think that Shanks is probably number 2 out of all the characters that are being introduced. Let's take out his EX Super next, just to check what's there. 2 units, so I like the fact that it's only 2 of the characters on there. So it looks like it's a lot of the Emperors, Mihawk, which is interesting, his Shanks crew that's there, so can't really complain there, and Uta. So yeah, I mean, it has a good list of characters that are there, so can't complain. You only need 2 of them, so that will be an awesome EX Super to trigger. It won't be too hard. And it will reduce all enemies' intimidation. Ooh, so this is really interesting because this has been a tactic that they've been really pushing hard in a lot of the content lately, whether it's Kazuna, whether it's PKA, is this debuff based on the intimidation, right? So the fact it just removes it. So if you didn't pull like a unit like Vegapunk who won't trigger some of these, then it's awesome that you have someone who can actually help out. Now, once again, this means that the next content's probably going to be pretty scary in terms of what intimidation is out there, and there's not a lot of real ways to get around it today, outside of maybe buffing it before you get to the final stage and things like that. But it'll be interesting to see what the gimmicks look like on the next couple events, but they're going to be probably pretty bad. If the character's first class is a shooter or fighter, it changes their first class to cerebral, and then basically, and that's only for 1 turn, and then boosts size cerebral and such character slot effects by 2.5 for 2 turns, and changes psi super psi and changes cerebral to super cerebral. So I like the slot boost there, the slot effects boost. That's good. Can't really complain there. But I think the biggest thing going for you for this unit is really the ability to get rid of the intimidation and get rid of the barriers. I think both of those are vastly underrated in terms of what they can actually do, and he'll actually help out through a lot of content there. So let's go ahead and just take a look now at what his Rush Sugo does. At the final battle, it looks like similar to Luffy. He can do a first or 6 tap there. He only needs any of the 2 characters, same as what was on his EX Super. And basically, it looks almost exactly similar, 0.8 to 2, and then 1 to 2.5 if he's the last tap. So first tap, you get a little bit less damage, but you have more flexibility in terms of what you do. Last tap, you get less flexibility, but you get more attack boost damage there. So I think it's the exact same thing that Luffy has, just minus the characters and the number of characters need to trigger it. So like I said, it's okay. It's not great. Probably won't throw Sugo tablets into here, at least not right now, until we know what other Rush units might be coming down the pike. So that is Shanks. So I'm going to skip over Ace. I'm going to cover him last, which might be blasphemy for some people, but I'm going to hop over to Gold D. Roger just because I think he's absolutely awesome, fantastic in what he can do. So let's go ahead and open up and just see what his captain ability is. So it's not a very complex captain. You can see reduces special charge time by 1. It is what it is. It's not that great, but you can get an attack boost of 5.5 when you have slots matching, otherwise 5.2. Boost HP 1.35, it is what it is, and then it reduces special bind duration by 10. You don't have many units that can do that many turns, so it's okay. He probably won't use it too often, but it's great that he has that ability in his captain ability itself. And then he gives you 2.25 to berries and XP. So not as much as I believe you can get to like 2.5 with like Nami and Karina and those guys. So, or some of the other units that are out there, right? The Marco and things like that. So, I mean, it's not crazy special, but it's just pretty good. So let's go check into his special and we'll see why I think he's such a good character as opposed to maybe Ace, who some people might rate higher than him. So let's get into the special itself. So it's kind of a long one, but basically you get rid of the blue shield, so that's good. If you combine him with one of the other units, I think it was the Shanks unit who got rid of the rainbow shield, then, sorry, I think it was Luffy actually who got rid of the rainbow shield. You could get basically defense and rainbow shield, completely remove just these 2 units, which is fantastic. And then he also gets rid of the attack down by 7 turns. Fantastic. Like, the utility here is just crazy. It already takes 2 really annoying debuffs, gets rid of them for 7 turns, changes your character slot, so not the whole crew slot, to tandem. Basically, no matter what they are, which is fantastic. That's good. It's always good to be able to change slots there. And then it prevents the character slot from being changed until you land a great. So I love this ability. This is if as long as you keep it in perfect, so you can just keep your tandem orbs. Just makes it so much easier to activate those super tandems and things like that. So I'm thrilled that he has the ability to have that orb locked until you hit a great. And then you reduce damage taken by 95% for 1 turn. So you can avoid death hits too. Like, this guy can do so much utility wise. It's crazy. He can't hit like a tank like Luffy might be able to do, but like the utility he provides is nuts. And if a captain is Dex type, which I believe he is, he boosts the type effects of normal attacks for crew by 2.75 for 2 turns. Can't be removed, which is kind of crazy. And if the captain is a slasher, which he would be as well, boosts crew's attack by 2.75 for 2 turns, and that can't be removed. And then if the character is a powerhouse, it boosts the crew's slot effects by 2.75 for 2 turns, and that can't, like, that is nuts. Like, the fact that you have all these debuffs and they cannot be removed is crazy. Like, a lot of this content that has like that Intimidate, right, that will reduce your turns, like, it's like, oh, don't care, Roger's on my crew, it's just gonna go. I know ever since Roger was released, like, I have no problem with Bandai breaking Roger, just because of his lore in One Piece, right? Like, I have no problem with them breaking him. And he's not broken in terms of like when he came out originally in his V1 or V2 or anything like that, where he's just, you know, hitting 2 million damage through defense and things like that, right? That's not this unit, but his utility is ridiculous. Like, he is going to be fantastic for a bunch of different content that's out there, and I can't say much bad about it. So let's get into his EX Super real quick. So again, 3 characters on the crew. It's kind of high. It's a bummer. I don't really like it, but it kind of is what it is. But you can have Luffy, Ace, Shanks, Rayleigh, just a bunch of different units here. So you have at least a good variety of units. A lot of them have a lot of good different units in the game that are actually viable. So it shouldn't be too hard to build this. Or if you have an attack boost, slot effect boost, or type effect boost with an effect of 6 times or more. So I like that they provide an alternate condition, right? The others haven't yet. So that actually is pretty good that they give you that option to go ahead and do that as well. It's tough to really complain about what's going on there. So, and then the effect extends the duration of the crew's attack boost, slot effect, and type effects by 1 turn. So now instead of 2 turns that can't be removed, it's 3 turns that can't be. Like, it's insane. This unit is so good. I am so happy that they made this unit kind of broken. Just because when I first watched the producer video, I kind of like got the feeling that he was an afterthought. But looking at this, he's not. Like, his utility is crazy. And then he also changes Dex Super Dex Slash to Super Slasher, Powerhouse to Super Powerhouse. So he's just changing everyone to super classes there. So I mean, it's ridiculous. He's fantastic. He's awesome. I'm guessing that his super tandem here probably won't be that great. Let's see. A final battle. Any characters on the crew. So it looks like it just needs 1, which is fantastic. Super easy to trigger that. You get 2.25 attack tandem boost there for 1 turn. And then you basically get an attack multiplier of 2.5 when slots match. So it just gives a little extra damage, right? But altogether, like, this unit is pretty insane in terms of what he can do utility-wise. He is the king of the pirates. He rightfully got that title. So for those reasons, I'm putting him as kind of number 3 in my tier rank. So let's go ahead and get to the last unit that they introduced here, which is the Ace unit. So let's go ahead and just get into his captain ability. We'll see what Ace can do. So he can reduce Dex, shooter, free spirit, character special time by 50%. Whoa, that's crazy. Like, that that is legitimate crazy. And the fact that our numbers are rounded down, wish they rounded up, but it is kind of what it is, right? But having that ability to reduce the special charge time by 50% is nuts. It will make a lot more characters viable and a lot more content. Free Spirit is a pretty heavy class in terms of the amount of good units that are in there. So like you're going to be using this captain to do speed farming of content, right? He'll get you your special charge right away. You can get through content pretty quick. That's insane. Like that 50% is pretty crazy. Boost HP by 1.35, attack by 6. So it's not terrible. It's good. It hits that 6 times meta, so we can't really complain there. And boost your attack further if any enemies were defeated in the previous turn. So yeah, they want you to do a speed farmer captain, right? So you can go from a 6 times boost to a 6.25. And it looks like it caps out at that 6.25 in 4 turns. So it looks like it's an incremental increase, probably a set percentage each time up to 6.25. So can't really complain there. It's pretty good. And then he boosts other characters' attack by 4.5. And then he makes Int, Dex, Psi, and Tandem slots have matching slot effects. You love it. Four out of the, all those different combinations are great. And then he reduces the special reverse by 10. Fantastic. That special reverse is pretty awesome. That's always an annoying gimmick. The fact that his captive ability just reverses it, awesome. And if you use special to boost slot effects, extends the duration of that by 1 turn. So again, I'm guessing that his special might have some slot effect stuff, or he's meant to be used with Luffy. So we'll just see what happens there. And again, depending on what happens with the captain action, the tap time that you get there, you can basically, if you get an excellent, you can, let's see what happens here. So if you do an excellent for the captain ability, it boosts Dex, Shooter, and Free Spirit character attack by 6, boost your attack by further by 6.25 in 4 straight turns. So basically it just changes that. Instead of 6.25, you can go up to 6.5. So yeah, not terrible. We'll have to see how these excellent things go. I'm kind of interested to see if the tap timing is really easy or hard for these special, these new captain ability or these new actions that they do there. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I mean, ultimately, the special reverse is nice. The fact that he gives the cooldown is probably his biggest, plus side that he has on his unit. So let's just go ahead and get into his special real quick, see what it does. So again, gives another turn of special charge down by 1. Crazy. Takes care of paralysis. Wow. So you can do like bind, paralysis, despair. Like with all these units, you could pretty much almost probably do just about any buff that's in the game, which is just absolutely nuts. And then basically gets rid of damage nullification. So that's an interesting one. You don't see damage nullification too often in content. So that kind of, again, gets me worried for what we'll see there. But the fact that you can do 3 turns of it is pretty awesome in terms of getting rid of that nullification. He changes block slots to Dex, which is good. All slots, including block slots to Dex. And then if you have slot effect boost when special is launched, they get ignited status. And you get that for 2 turns. You can do 100 times their enemy attack and non-type damage. So that's good if you have any units that are going to have any resilience, things like that. That will just help get through them pretty quickly. And boost damage dealt to ignite enemies by 2.75 for 2 turns. So like that, can't complain. Extra damage, conditional damage there, so we like to see it. And then it will boost the slot effects up to 4 times, depending on how you do on the timing of that tap special there. And then it also gives increase of 1.5 for the cruise type effect. So, I mean, the unit is really good. Like his special is pretty crazy with the giving the ignite, the additional boost that he satisfies on top of that, getting rid of paralysis and damage nullification. So he's going to be able to do a good amount. So yeah, I can't really complain too much about any of these unit specials. I think they're all pretty good. But let's get into the super real quick. See, so again, 2 characters. Love to see that. Luffy, Sabo, Gar, Roger, new Whitebeard, some of the Whitebeard crew, Otama. Yeah, so good amount of characters here. Some of the ones towards the back aren't really the best. But it should be too hard to still get 2 of those on there. Again, reduces special by 1 turn. Like, this is insane. You're going to be able to pretty much get, like, any unit that has probably, 10 to 12 like ready to go right away if you have double of these captains. Like it's just insane how much cooldown this guy can reduce. It's going to make it fun using him for those who decide to pull for him to get him for speed farming content. So what he end up doing is if the first character's class is fighter or cerebral, change it to shooter, unless they're already a shooter for 1 turn, and then boost dex, shooter, and free spirits attack by 2.5 for 2 turns. And then changes the super characters to super shooters and changes the free spirit to super free spirit. So he does an okay amount of stuff. Like just the special charge time is awesome, and the change of the classes is okay. Let's see how all this plays out. All 3 of them have the abilities to change classes depending on what you do there. So we'll have to see, what that actually looks like in practice, and if that kind of makes team building easier, harder. We'll have to see how that goes. I want you to take a look lastly at his Sugo special. So again, it looks like you can do first or 6th tap on the chain. You only need 2 characters, which are the ones that we had above. So again, it looks like you can do the 0.8 to 2 or the 1 to 2.5. So it looks like they're all the same if I'm looking at this correctly. So yeah, once again, it's just okay. I'll probably hold off throwing any of these Sugo Rush tablets into any of these characters just till we get a better idea of what the characters can do there. So those are the 4 new units that are showing up. So as I mentioned, my kind of personal ranking is Luffy. I think he's going to hit hard. He has tons of buffs. You can get rid of Bind and Despair. He's just a fantastic unit, right? It's a Luffy unit. He's awesome. Next, I'd probably go with Shanks, right? He has a lot of ability, especially on what he can do on his captain ability, right? Where he's basically able to, not so much to sending the ship to max, that's kind of whatever, but he basically helps kind of extend a lot of the buffs that Luffy has, and he can do a bunch of crazy stuff on his special, especially with getting rid of the Rainbow Shield. That's always good, and the barrier is the other key part of that. So yeah, really can't complain. Luffy, Shanks, and then just because of the pure utility that Whitebeard provides, Roger provides, he slots into my 3rd slot. And then lastly, I'm putting Ace kind of at the bottom, not because I think he's bad. He does a lot of great things, and he's going to be used for speed farming a lot of content without a problem. But the problem that you have there is that, great, getting specials charged and ready to go really quick is fantastic. Obviously help you get through content, but we don't get a lot of new content, right? Like, yeah, you get the monthly Kazunas and TMs and Pirate Adventure, right? But outside of that, we're not getting Fortnites, we're not getting Garp Challenges, we're not getting content where you might have to keep farming it like 100 times over and over again, right? Where it might get annoying and where these kind of speed captains really help out. So for that reason alone, I don't think he's bad. I don't think any of these units are bad per se, but I think on a ranking, just because of the utility that Roger provides, I think I value that utility of Roger just a little bit over being able to get through content quicker with Shanks. So for that reason, that's kind of my order: Luffy, Shanks, Roger, and Ace. And that's kind of probably the order that I'll go trying to pull them in. If I can only get 2, I'd probably go for Luffy and Shanks, and we'll see how the gems look after that. I have enough gems where I'll be able to get 2 guaranteed, even if I have to go max for both of those banners. So I'm not too worried about that there. So that is my quick analysis of what I think they are. Like I said, we don't have the GP sets yet, so that could change everything. GP is obviously a pretty critical game mode, and with the different Luffy units that are out there, obviously there could be a effect for how he slots into teams. Shanks too. I'm hoping that because they're int cerebral, that the Luffy PvP buffs will be focused around that int team. It'd be great. They're kind of lacking a lot of damage right now. So if they had a way to increase CT, increase damage, and just hit like a tank, I think if you pair the Atlas unit, who can hit really hard, with like a Luffy unit who can hit really hard on the int team, you might see that int team for PvP come back into the meta. So I'm hoping that's what they do there. We'll have to see what ends up happening. But with that, I'm going to wrap up the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was a long one. I'd love to hear in your comments section below here what your order is, right? Is there any units that you like better than the others? Who are you going to be pulling for? How many gems do you have saved up? Just let me know down below. Love to hear from you guys. Love to hear feedback from the community. So I hope, just a quick reminder, this is the last day of GP, so get your matches in if you haven't yet. I'll have a video up a little bit later today of my GP matches once I do them. But I just want to get this video out to you guys because I think it was important to, talk about the new characters, even though we don't have the full info on them yet. it's good to kind of go through them and talk about what they can do and what the future might look like, right? So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, be kind to each other. Thanks.